All right, guys, so we're going to talk about strings and string methods. So we've already learned a little bit about strings, and we're going to talk about the methods that we can use on it so that we can change the way they look or they're printed out. So as a reminder, strings in Python are a series of characters. Anything inside of quotes are considered strings. You can use double or single quotes around strings. So if I say print, quote, this is a string, with double quotes, a set of double quotes, and I also print single quotes, this is a string, the output is the same. So that if I use a set of double quotes or single quotes, it's the same. What you cannot do, though, is start with a double quote and end with a single quote. Okay, if you start with a double quote, then you must end with a double quote. And usually in your development environments, when you put one quote in, it will give you a pair, or it will give you two of them. Okay, if you want quote marks to show up in your print statements, you can trick the computer by using single quotes to indicate the string, and double quotes will display or print out. So for instance, start the string with a single quote. So here is this single quote, and it's matched with the single quote here. So this starts the string, and this ends the string. Now your double quotes start here, and the second double quote start here. So this is what the input looks like. And this is just a quote by Dr. King that talks about darkness, not being able to drive out darkness, but only light can do that. So let's look at what the output looks like. So the output, because you use a single quote to start the string here, the double quote actually ends up showing up in the print statement. All right, so that's something to note as you go through this. Another thing that you can use, so these are called escape characters. These are ways of having the computer not recognize the single quote as, so let me explain real quick. So another choice of an escape character, let's say that you want to say what's up, and you want to use an apostrophe inside of your quote. So you want it to print out like this, like what's up, right? Well, the problem is if you put a single quote here and a single quote here, then it would actually end your string and it would be a problem, right? So the rest of this stuff over here would not be part. It would actually be like an error message. So what you do instead is you just want this apostrophe to actually print out. You don't want the program to read it as the end of your string. So you put a backslash in front of it, and notice that turns it in the Replit development environment, it turns it blue. So when I use this as my input, this is what happens with my output. All right, so that's called an escape character because it escapes the meaning of what this single quote is used for. Okay, let's talk about some methods that we can use on strings. These are just ways to change what they look like. So the first method is called uppercase, okay? And the way that we do this is we put a dot after the name, so it tells Python to perform the upper method on the variable named name in this situation, right? So if my variable was called my underscore name, I would say my underscore name dot upper, and every method is followed by a set of parentheses. So anytime, it's like a method is like a specific function. I can only use upper on things that are strings. I can't use it on things that are numbers, for instance. So if I put a parenthesis after the method, this is part of the syntax of a method. So they use that because they often need more information to do their work. That information will be provided inside the parentheses. This method does not need additional information, so the parentheses are empty. So it looks strange because you're like, well, why do I have to add these parentheses if I don't need it? And just in the whole world of functioning, this method doesn't need to put anything in here, but sometimes you do. Like if I have an object and I want to tell it to turn right, so I would say right, and I would give it an angle measurement, and that would tell, I put the angle measurement inside the parentheses. But for this one, we don't need it. So it's just name.upper, open and close parentheses. Okay, so some instances here. So let's say I have a variable called funny, and I store in it this word, LOL cats. Okay, and I print and I'm referring back to the name of the variable. So I say funny.upper. Now, these are the open and close parentheses for the upper method. This is the closed parentheses to match this open one, right? And that just prints out, it takes the LOL cats here and it prints out it all out in uppercase. Another thing is I can call the method directly on a string itself. I don't have to store it in a variable first. So I can say the cat's name was Bill. And if I say .upper, it's going to put the whole thing in uppercase. So just note the syntax here. If I'm calling the method directly on a string, I would open parentheses, I'd close them here, and open quotes and close them here, and then use a period, and then I have the upper method, an open and close parentheses. I know it's annoying to learn all the syntax, but once you learn it, you can do a lot of things with it. So it's really important to not mess any of this up or the computer gets confused. Okay, so we did this. The name.upper puts everything in uppercase. Okay, the next thing is lowercase. So very similar. I wouldn't say upper here. I would say lower. I can call it on a function. So I can say funny.lower, or I can call it directly on a string, and it gets the same thing, but all in lowercase. Okay, I can also use title case, which what happens here, let's just observe this. So let's say book equals flowers for Algernon, and I say book.title or New York Times.title, it just capitalizes the first letter of each word. Whoops. So I just want to make sure. So you can see that each word is capitalized. That's called title case. Okay, the next thing that I want to show you is concatenation. So concatenation is the merging of two strings together to make a print function. So all you have to do is add a plus symbol between the two strings or variable names that are storing strings, and they will end up displaying next to each other. So let's say I have a variable that's called Katherine Johnson, another one that's called Mary Jackson. Well, let's say I want to make a print statement with both of their names together. I would say, now look at the structure of this. Name _1, there's no quotes here because it is a variable name. Then I use a plus symbol. Then I use the word and, let's get back to that in a second, plus name 2. So name 1 gets filled in with Katherine Johnson. That's Katherine Johnson. And I have the space in the front here, and I have a space in the back. So that creates these spaces here. And then name 2 gets substituted in here. So it's like a substitution problem in mathematics, where you're like, okay, the variable is equal to this. Whenever I see name 1, I'm going to give it this. I'm going to give it that value. That way you can print out long things all together. Okay, so another way of doing concatenation is, if let's say that I wanted to, I have to make sure that the words are in title case, for instance. So I could call the method title on the first name and add it to last name with the method title called on it as well. So that would get me Ada Lovelace, who is one of the first computer programmers. But I can also, this right here, Ada Lovelace would be smushed together. There's no actual space because there's no space inside these parentheses. There's no space here. And the concatenation symbol does not create a space for you. So what you need to do is you need to create a space here with a string. So you have the double quotes here, and you put that space right there. And so what that does is it will just say Ada space Lovelace with a capital A and a capital L. Okay, moving on to a different topic called string formatting. Okay, string formatting, what it does is it allows you to place all of the things together like in a substitute. So it's allowing you to take values of variables. So this is a variable, this is the value stored in it. And you can create a long statement here where you fit the values back into this statement. Okay, and the way you do it is you can write the whole statement in, and wherever you want like a blank space, you use these curly brackets. So you do quote, open and close curly brackets, Mr., open and close curly brackets, may I call you blank, dot format. Okay, so you close the string there, you put the dot, because a formatting is a method. We talked about methods before, and we said that they always have parentheses, right? So this method has parentheses, except I need to give it values here. I have 3 blank spaces here, so I need to give it 3 values. Okay, so I want greeting to be replaced here, I want last to be replaced here, and I want first to be replaced here. So it's going to say, hello, Mr. Freeman, may I call you Morgan, right? Because that's the I know the first goes right there because it's in order. So let's see the outcome here. Okay, so there's the code right there, and the outcome is like this. Hello, Mr. Freeman, may I call you Morgan? Now, this is called string formatting because I use a method called format. And I know it looks awkward with the curly braces, but you'll get the hang of it, and that will create like a blank space, and that fills it in right here. And that way you can put the punctuation that you need in here. And it's not as awkward as the commas that we saw before, where I kept having to add strings for spaces and strings for periods. This way I can format, I can write the sentence the way I want to, and then I can do the dot format method and bring everything else in. And that's the end of the lesson for today. There's a lot of methods you learned about how to make the string look differently. You can add them together with concatenation, and so you can use a concatenation, you can use the commas, and you can use the formatting to make text all come out together. And that's it.